Okay.
Tuesday, June the 28th, and this is a budget workshop meeting, and today we're going to be talking first with the juvenile department, then with the sheriff's department, the district clerk, and the district attorney. So if you folks are ready, come on up, juvenile department, and we'll start with you.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Good morning. Thank you for having us. Homer's at an advisory board, so you're kind of stuck with me. So I'm going to kind of go through this, and if you have any questions. First thing we're looking at is our general fund. I'm just going to kind of go through the bullet points down so you kind of know what the juvenile department's doing. On our general fund 3480, it's basically temp salary. We've taken $50,000, and that's going to be moved into contract security. When we submitted originally, it showed up in benefits, but it's been corrected and it's put in personnel now. Our biggest change in our budget is we are asking to reclassify 2 accounting assistant positions from a pay group 16 to a pay group. The reason for this is that they've taken on accounting tasks that include accounts payable, accounts receivable, human resource duties. We originally had 4 positions that were doing this, and we've moved 2 around to kind of fulfill the needs of the county, or at least the juvenile department. The 2 positions that have stayed have basically taken on the role of a human resource personnel. They do all our hiring. Put everything together as far as the paperwork that gets submitted downtown. They do all my backgrounds, PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. They do all the interview packets. They confirm all the interviews, things of that nature. The difference in the pay would be $5,969.60 for 2 people combined.
For both, that's for both? Because you got one of them going from 16.6 to 18.6.
We have 2 positions.
Then the other one for 16.1 to 18.1. So
That's probably the step.
Right, that one employee has been here for over 23 years.
Yeah, that's a
just
contingency step.
okay.
Now, is that salary and benefits or just salary?
That's just salary, sir.
Yeah.
I was told not to do the benefits.
So with these new duties and manpowers and assignments, the juvenile department really respectfully asked the Commissioners Court to consider reclassifying these 2 positions. They do fulfill a big need for our department, and they do streamline a lot of things that would come down here to the county as a whole. So again, that's the difference is $5,969.60.
I did ask this question of Diana, but I think just for the course, you can answer it. But several years ago, you had the 2 accounting assistants, and then you reclassified them into secretaries, and so it looks to me like we're kind of revolving back and forth on this.
Well, as changes happen with the state and the things that they need us to do, we try to utilize our manpower the best way we can. We have ripped positions in the past. We have moved them around, and just to get the most that we can out of it. Just sometimes that as we do these things, they just kind of morph into these bigger positions than we thought they were going to be. And it didn't make sense to have 4 positions doing it. It really makes sense to have 2 positions do it. And for the amount of work that they do, they do deserve to be paid for it. So. If we move along to Department 3490 and 3492, those respectfully are our detention and our boot camp. We do not have any changes in those this year. They're going to stay the same. And looking at our grants, which is our Special Revenue Fund 13, there was an increase of $120 as a part of insurance for the volunteers and the people that come in. So that's going to come out of 1321, our probation fees. So Fund 20 is the next one that we're looking at. There's really no changes there. That's our grants, and we've been to Commissioners Court before to ask for our drug grants and our counseling grants. Basically, everything's gone through. We're just waiting to make sure that we're going to be approved. We don't have the actual dollar on that yet, but as soon as they come in, we could possibly get that number for you. Let's see, Fund 28. This is kind of a big one.
Is that, what did you say, 28, is that 3,700?
It's our TJJD fund.
I'm jumping at the sheriff, sorry, my bad. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, it's towards the back of the packet.
I don't think I have
Oh.
that.
I'll put it on the screen here.
I don't have that one.
There you go.
Slow down just for a second.
Which, 28 you're looking at?
Yes, TJJD Fund 28.
It's on the screen there.
Okay.
It's on-
Basically, what this fund is it pays for a lot of our salary and operations as well as placement. The Texas Juvenile Justice Department decreased us 1.95%, which is about $48,697 this year. So what we generally do is we start looking at our budget and going through and seeing where we can cut and make changes. TJJD did come up with a special fund that we can apply for, which we are. What that means is every time that the courts have a child that's going to go to placement or be there for a while, it's going to cost us X number of dollars, just depending on what type of placement it is. If we come up short, we're able to apply for these funds right now to make up the difference. Okay, so that does help out this year. However, this next fiscal year that's coming along, we are being told that they are going to decrease us another $50,000. So if that happens, again, we have to go through our whole department. We have to look at what we're doing, how we're doing it, and what we're spending money on. And that includes positions all the way through placement. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. It's taken very seriously. Every time Homer finds out that there are cuts or there are possible cuts, we start looking pretty quick to see what we can do and what we can't do. So,
And if I could add, and there has been a policy of the court for some years that if the state's going to reduce the funds, that doesn't mean the county's going to supplement it with general funds. You know, if it's a state cut, then they go and look at the cuts.
typically, we've never supplemented. However, there may be a time that we have to ask, just depending on how much they cut.
Can I ask a question here, just because I'm getting a little lost in all these forms? Okay, so I'm looking, the first one was juvenile probation, and the budget increase was 0, right? 2,
That's correct.
okay, that's the first one. Then the second one,
But juvenile probation was an increase on the personnel.
well, but then it was it was 0 impact, because it was,
No, yeah, on their basic budget, you're correct, Commissioner, but in that package, they also requested the reclassification package. They had a reclassification in there. Yeah.
right, but it's a 0 impact. Okay, so 0 impact.
Reclassification.
Well, right, I'm just looking at this, that it shows me a 0 impact. It was 2.421335. Last year, it's 2.421335. This year, with a $50,000 offset and a $50,000 addition, which is a 0 impact. That's what I've got.
That's correct.
Okay.
On the for salaries, the departments are not allowed to increase
Right.
salaries. So that's why you don't see that impact of the reclassification.
Okay, but at the end of the day, it's a 0 impact.
If it's approved, it'll be more, it'll be about $6,000 impact.
Well, okay, I don't understand then. So then how am I looking at this general fund appropriations for juvenile probation, and it says decrease, increase 0, and that your budget request is the same because you just moved money around somewhere else?
So, Commissioner, as I said, the budget, basic budget request they have on there, that is completely correct. But then the papers followed behind that, personnel and capital requests, et cetera, we do not put those on this general sheet. When the court goes into the budget workshop, they look at that whole packet. So if you look at the third page back, where they talk about additional personnel requests, and they talk about reclassifying, that reclassification, that if the court approves reclassifying, then that would, more like $7,000 when you throw benefits on there, but that would be an increase to the budget.
And so why wouldn't that be on this sheet? Why wouldn't it reflect that?
We have never put it on there because there's a separate thing that the court looks at when they go through everything, and so we look at it from a point, this is a basic budget, and the request to change to the basic budget is what you have there. We don't assume that there's going to be salary increases or all that, so in the salary and benefits package, Dale pushed it in there, basically what we've had in the past or what's there currently. If later on the court decides on the additional positions or reclassifications or salary increases, then that will go in the full package that we propose to you.
Okay, okay.
And like Steve was saying, that with salary, in the past, we didn't allow the departments to put the information in there because there's so many changes in salaries every year. Because if you have some changes, as we saw, one person's at a step 6, but if they leave and someone else comes, and they come into step 1, there's a reduction. So usually my staff is the one that puts all the final adjustments in before we get to the total. So there could be a lot more of an increase or decrease than the 5,000 we're talking about.
Okay, so, and I remember that when I was doing my budget. I mean, I couldn't add to my salary and I couldn't add all that in, but I just assumed, I guess, incorrectly, that someone else did it, so when it got to the commissioners, it showed the increases, but you're saying it doesn't, and they just put it in the back, and we have to just kind of manually put that in our head and go forward from there.
Well, it will be there when we
Now.
go into August and start working on workshops.
Okay, that's fine.
We have better
Steve and I
data.
will use
This,
the numbers together, and
Okay.
you'll actually see where we're proposing.
Okay, so then, and then in the second one, which is juvenile detention, you had a flat budget there, right? And
that's correct.
no additions there, right? Okay. And then on Justice Boot Camp, you had a flat budget, and then
Increase.
nothing there? Nothing increased there, okay. And then, that's all I have in my
But that's where the 48,000 come in, no? Is that the,
No, it's through our TJJD funds, Fund 28.
So yeah, so that's the next fund, which maybe I just don't have in this packet, because the end of my packet is
I don't need,
Well,
Justice
they're on
Boot
the-
Camp.
They're in the packet that was online, but
I don't have it
I
either.
don't think they got printed
okay.
out.
Okay, all right, now, that's why I was lost. Now I'm caught up, sorry about that, go ahead, my apologies.
Again, we're at Fund 28, it's TJJD funds. They are going to decrease at $48,697. That does go towards salary operations as well as placement.
Hang on, I apologize. On the main grant, Fund 20, the budget request 33.6 with no match for family counseling and 35 with no match is an additional.
That's the grants that we asked for, that does our drug court, as well as,
Right, but those are not general fund
Right.
monies.
They're not general fund
You're just letting us know that you're
that's correct.
getting those grants, but that has no effect on that. And then on 28, that's the one where you're anticipating a 1.95% decrease. where
That
would
did
be-
happen.
We'd have to subsidize that,
Well,
or something else.
Well, you don't have to subsidize it yet. Basically, what happens on that TJJD grant, when they decreased it by 48,000, they did offer us a special fund that as we come up short, especially with kids that are going to placement,
Right.
then we're able to apply for these grants, and they can offset it this year. Okay?
Okay, so this is not a budget request either.
Not a budget
The
request.
only
either.
budget request so far that you've made is the
Just the personnel.
$6,000
Yes,
only, right? So
that's
far?
correct.
Roughly about 75 with benefits.
7,500?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm caught up.
That's all we're asking for. again, and then we kind of talked about here at the end was that what's going to happen possibly next fiscal year. And Homer wanted to make sure everybody kind of knew that there may be another cut at that point. So,
Anytime the legislature comes, they usually cut you, don't they?
yeah. So all we're really looking at is the upgrade to the 2 staff positions that we're asking for.
So is your capacity over at the holding facility right now adequate?
Our staffing, as far as personnel for detention and boot camp, or the whole?
The holding area?
Right now, it's okay. There's going to be a big change here in 2017. Basically, with the new PREA standards that are being enacted, they're asking us to reduce our staffing ratio from 1 to 12 to 1 to 8. And so I got to look at how many kids we are taking into the facilities and what that impact is going to be. So, that's coming pretty soon.
The Commissioner, in response to that question, though, they're running about 50% in there. I mean,
We
the
are.
staffing not staffing, the number of kids in this facility for detention is about 50% of the capacity, and the number of kids in boot camp is about 50% of capacity. So with these ratios, we really need to look at actuals rather than budgeted stuff, and that's
Right,
what
and we may be okay. I mean, to be honest with you, we did have some issues in the jail part, and so we wanted to make sure we got those right. So rather than take a bunch of kids in and have some problem, we reduced it, got everything straight, and now we're taking kids back in. So, and that always has it's a slow process, because you can read 27 psychs and get 1 kid. So, and they're coming from all over the place, and courts do a lot of different things with kids. So it's a slow process, but we're slowly increasing. But I don't want to go too big, because I know that with our standards changing on the 1 to 12 ratio to a 1 to 8 ratio, it's going to have an impact. So I need to kind of keep it lower.
And this is for both
Both detention and boot camp. Yep.
receiving, and we also place kids in other areas, right?
Yes, we do, and it's a federal mandate now. So.
Right.
Another unfunded mandate.
Yeah, that's correct. So.
Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
I have one question. When I'm looking at the CJD grant pending approval, that's the money you guys are asking for?
Mhm.
And if you don't get those monies, will you be short?
We may have to look for other dollars that we have around, or we may have to do away with the drug court.
And is the amount that you actually need to continue with the drug court? 35,000, that's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Miles, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, and hope I've answered all your questions.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff? Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Appreciate you giving me this early spot. With the largest budget, we'll try to go through this as expeditiously as we can, and I think I can probably eliminate a lot of questions, because there are a few things that may need to be discussed, but primarily there's the 3 budgets here that Commissioners Court deals with. It's the largest, we're being the largest budget draw from the county, and thus certainly takes a minute, but let's get right to it if we can. Let's look at 3,700. Is that the one you have up first, Steve, 3,700?
Yes.
3,700 is the sheriff's budget, and then, of course, 3,720 will be our jail budget, and 3,710 will be the identification budget. In the $3,700 budget, if we go to line item 5123, salaries, and I need to make an immediate clerk part-time to a full-time position. This was a position that I had out front that manages and takes the incoming calls and diverts them to, some of them come right back to the courthouse, but the person, it's a full-time job. What happened to my part-time person is that she's now sitting in Judge Neal's office, and they are just so very happy with her, but she needed full-time work, and the 6 hours that we gave her, the 29 hours a week, just didn't work. But I'm asking for a full-time position there, which would be an increase in that, and also a change in an administrative secretary's position from 1701 to 1901 for a difference of $2,953, $60 a year. This position's just taken on new responsibilities. Our county continues to grow, and as the county continues to grow and we bring new industry in here, then it brings new responsibilities and obligations on us as an agency, and it's getting, I'll be very honest with you, it's getting difficult to administer on the current dollars that we have. As you know, back before I became sheriff, one of the things that happened to us is our patrol division, which was basically 50 officers that we had in patrol. Because of budget tight constraints, they cut it in half. They cut the entire patrol section in half, where there's only 25 people left in that section. And our growth now for a county of over 800 square miles is, I struggle every day to make sure that we have adequate patrol 24 hours a day within this county, because we just don't have people, but I'll get to that. As we move down to 2440 maintenance and equipment repairs, we've asked for a $20,000 increase in that category. Maintenance increases cost daily, and repair costs have significantly increased. And this is a budget consideration that's based upon the premise that is.
I'm sorry, Sheriff, excuse me.
Yes.
You want to make, back to 5123, you mentioned the clerk from a part-time to a full-time, but also administrative
Yes.
secretary. Is that a
Yes,
new
sir.
position? Or are you going to upgrade somebody?
Well, we can't upgrade anybody on the part-time to full-time because we don't
No, I'm
have.
talking about the administrative secretary. I mean,
Yes.
is it a new position?
No.
No?
It's not a new position.
I'm
Is that
saying
correct?
you're going to upgrade somebody?
Yeah, and you want to stand up here with me, Cynthia, just in case. Cynthia is the office manager. I think most of you, although she doesn't get before the court very often, she's our budget person and the one that keeps me informed daily on what we're doing. And this is upgrading Estella's?
Yes.
Estella, which is the administrative assistant to the secretary, or to the sheriff.
You know what level is that? What
We're asking to move that position from a 1701 to a 1901, from an administrative secretary 1 to administrative secretary 2.
Wait a minute, y'all lost me. Which one are you talking about now?
We're back up at 5123. The
Okay.
second one, we're asking to change the administrative secretary position
Okay.
from 1701 to 1901, which would be administrative secretary 2, to reclassify that one.
From part-time to full-time?
No, that's our
No.
intermediate clerk.
No, just an upgrade.
There's two basically in there, and one is the upgrade of the part-time
got-
position
but you
that we
got,
had at the front desk, and the other is the upgrade, or the upgrading of the full-time position from one category to the next level.
But you have an increase of 210,639.
Mhm.
So where's the rest of it going?
Well, let's move on. I didn't get a chance to finish, sir.
Okay, that's still for salaries? Okay.
If you look
Well-
at, Commissioner, just, if you're on the same page of what I have on your screen right now, that's the second page in the packet. Sheriff, you probably should just go through each one of those again. You've covered the first two, now you're down here to the additional.
Well, we got 5123, which is, as the
Yes.
Commissioner noted, a $210,000 increase, but that's the 6 deputy sheriff positions that we're asking to put back into
So that's
a
3,700?
patrol.
So it comes under 3,700 then?
Yeah, you see what I have on the screen there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is for,
I think I have that.
And then in the 3,700, 5123, there's three areas. A full-time assistant, a part-time assistant to full-time, upgrading one position from a position of 17 to a 19, and adding 6 deputy sheriffs to the patrol section. Move on to 5240. We've asked for a $20,000 increase in the ability in the category for maintenance and repair, increased maintenance cost to our fleet, and repair cost, again, as I reiterated, are going up daily. You know that on even taking care of your personal vehicles. It's getting very difficult to manage our fleet and trying to find people who will somehow show us how to cut corners so we can stay within that budget. 5260, maintenance, building and grounds. Due to construction at the annex, the patrol office will move locations. We're going to need some funding to help accomplish that, and request to help us cover the cost to renovate the patrol office. We were asking $40,000 in that category.
Sheriff, the patrol office will move from where to where?
Well, the proposal is that when the court authorized the 144-bed increase to the annex, that's going to cover where the patrol office is currently housed. And what we've been in the process of doing is going to move patrol over to the other side of the building, and our adult probation locate to buildings that are already on the property. But this is something that we'll have to work through with the current with probation people and with the help of the Commissioner's Court to make that happen. But I did go for a walkthrough. Me and the chief deputy and others, we went through a walkthrough with their supervisor at that location, and there's plenty of room out there for us to make the transition from moving patrol to the other side of the building where they currently have counselors, and moving our patrol on that side and moving the counselors into a building that absolutely has nobody in it. It's just not used, and it is a beautiful building. But
So they'll still be at the annex, though?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Again, with the court's consideration and assistance, they will still be there. But we've got some logistical things, but we can't wait. We couldn't do anything beforehand because we had to make sure that these contracts were going to be funded and approved with the expansion of the jail. Now that they are, and we've got jail commission approval and the architect and the construction plans and the money put aside for it, now we've got to immediately address the needs that as soon as the groundbreaking starts and they move in there, we'll have to move patrol pretty quick to the other side of the building so they can start the renovation to add the additional beds. You know, I might add to the court, everything is about money, and it's all dollars, and you folks are the board of directors for the dollars that the county has. But we bring in over $500,000 a month by doing something that I do for this court, and that is I manage these private jails. GEO has two. I have people that have to oversee the function down in La Villa, and I've got a function with the Coastal Bend Detention Center, which again returns over, I believe, I haven't seen the latest numbers, but around, maybe $500,000+ into, and this is GEO. This doesn't have anything with the return on us housing federal inmates here in the county jail. This is just me overseeing their operation.
And that comes back into the general fund?
It goes back to the general fund, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think, Dale, I think it's more like $3 million a year. It's not, so
it's a pretty good
$250,000 a month, but I think the overall is less than the 500.
I think we started less than the 500,000 a year.
Yes, it is. A month.
He said a year.
$500,000 a year is what I was saying, and it's $3 million.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're more like.
So all I'm asking the court to do is, we can't have that. We cannot have that money coming to the court unless the sheriff, whoever the sheriff may be, says, I want to do that. And I've done it since I've been sheriff. Before it was LCS, different operation entirely. GEO now is a much larger operation, which certainly there's strong areas for growth with LCS and what they're going to do with the Coastal Bend facility. But I'm not privileged even at this point to talk about the growth expansion because that'll come after this next election cycle. We talk about that, but I'm saying that some of that money that is coming in certainly could help compensate for some of the needs that we have and the responsibilities that I must, attend to and oversee as sheriff to make that happen, because if I said I didn't want to do it anymore, not only would I'd be hurting myself, but I'd be hurting my county through the loss of those funds. I understand that.
I have two questions, Sheriff. On 5260, the 40,000, it says maintenance and repairs, buildings and grounds. What are we doing on the grounds? What's the?
Well, you know, these categories sometimes are misleading, but that's probably a misnomer. I don't do much on the grounds, but Cynthia?
It's for the building itself too. There's some walls and partitions that would need to be removed.
So it's about inside the building?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this just, as the sheriff said, this is just a category that's set up, and so stuff that's done in buildings, so he's talking about just stuff in buildings, he's not talking about grounds, but if somebody's doing groundwork, it's in here also.
Okay, and I'm going to come back to what the sheriff says about bringing in 100,000 to, I don't know, $1 million, I guess, or Steve says more, but, or that, is some of those monies being earmarked to give back to the sheriff department in case?
It's coming back to, well, it's not earmarked directly to the sheriff, it's $1 million coming back to the general fund, and of course, the general fund supports the sheriff, just about 100%. So the money is, he says he has the biggest budget. There is some money earmarked in that he pays for some supplements to staff, and I think he does pay for also one officer separately out of there. But most of it's coming back to general fund for to support your general fund.
Can we get a report of that, or what comes in every year? I mean, do we know what's come in the last 3 years? I mean, how much money's come in?
We transferred $1.1 million in this year's budget from that fund to the court, yes. In the previous years have been about the same. They originally at one point, as the sheriff said, was higher, but in the last 2-3 years they're not at capacity. They have not maintained the capacity, and with the change of GEO to LCS to GEO, we're hoping that it goes back towards capacity, but it's a contract that's been negotiated with the federal marshal as far as rates and what we have in there.
The commissioners, just if I can allude to it but what's going to happen after the presidential election? As you well know, immigration is an issue. And if the immigration issue, which recently was upheld, I believe, with a 4-4 vote by the Supreme Court about who can stay in the country and who can work, when that changes, this facility is going to have to expand to handle the flow of immigration violation cases that may be being in the process of being deported back to other countries. And South Texas, well, which one? GEO. It's GEO now. LCS is out of it, thank goodness. They're gone. But
So
there's an expansion project that they have on the table they're just going to have to grow tremendously. But again, for a person like Steve and you and the court, you can't budget on, well, I think this is going to happen, because until it happens, but we know that probably there is going to be some issues with immigration that are going to cause the dollars for Nueces County to come in. And the more dollars that come in, the more responsibilities we have as a sheriff's office, because the marshal won't contract with the court. The marshals contract to house their prisoners only through sheriffs, and then they throw the responsibility on me to make sure that we manage it according to their desires. And when it's not to their desires, then they can change. They could change at a whim by saying, Nueces County, we don't want you doing it anymore. We want Clayburgh to handle it, or we want another county, just like we're down there in Hidalgo with the La Villa property, because the sheriff down there at one time didn't want to do it, and when I came in, I said, we'll be happy to do it. And so we have that, and it is a pretty good revenue producer. I believe Hidalgo is pretty well full. And it's called La Villa, the La Villa, GEO La Villa facility. La Villa being the name of the little town that it's located in. Anyway, any other questions on that?
So we should be asking for maybe jailers instead of 6 patrol positions? I mean, for the expansion?
Well, the jailers, the people that I have to send out to these facilities to oversee, it's like the state coming in and doing the state inspections for me. the Marshal Service require that we go do those inspections to their federal facilities with our captains. So I'm sending captains out, not our corrections officers who are currently working on the 1-to-48 ratio. We can't pull them out and send them somewhere. As our jail expands, yes, we'll have to have some more jailers, but I think that's already in consideration, another part of the budget when we move out of the sheriff's budget and over to the correction side.
So are we taking into account, of course, it sounds good that we're taking in $1 or $2 or $3 or $3.5 million, but what's the expense?
If you talk the jail, I mean, the money flows through here, and we keep a commission or a percentage, just like a commission of each inmate. And so, in looking at, again, where we're at every year, it's between $1 million and 1.5, somewhere in that range is what the county keeps of that total money that flows through to the jail, and it comes from basically the federal marshals to the county and to the
So are
to
you
the
saying that
facility.
we're netting $1.2 million every year from the income that's coming?
Yes,
Yes.
and that's coming. That's kind of like a commission that we get for the sheriff operating at there, and some of the extra. There is some money that's used out of that against supplement some of the salary that people are working in his department to do the bookkeeping and doing the stuff and that. And
We've got that categorized so that we can keep track of.
yes, that's in a special revenue account. So everything flows into that account, and so everything that goes in and out of that account is in a separate account by itself. And we annually transfer a portion of that money from the special revenue account to the general fund when we do our budget for the year, as far as operating funds.
And of course, that money then goes out to the other budgets. It doesn't necessarily come back to the sheriff's office.
I like to, I've never seen where we're tracking all this stuff and how much is coming in and from who, but, and I'm, just to kind of give the sheriff some credibility here, I think that if he's doing that in La Villita or wherever it's at and taking 2-3 people to do it, bringing in $1 million, I guess, why is that not be able to pay for 3 officers to do that from that money that's coming in? We wouldn't have to dig into the additional general fund because that money's already coming in. Then you have to come here and ask for more officers or more. I don't understand. Maybe because I've never seen it, Steve. I just need to really see. To me, I would like to see what's coming in from. He's got 3 things that are coming in that I hear now, and I've never seen them. So, and I need to look and see what's coming in. All fairness, before I decide what I'm going to do, yes or no.
My comment on that is, of course, commissioners can make that decision, but it's not unlike the money the JPs bring in. It's not unlike the county clerk brings in. There are points where money come in, and if we take all that money and feed it back to the JPs and feed it back to the sheriff, they'll be doing that, and then you make a decision. Okay, so how much are we going to take out of the general fund to fund them for additional things? So it's all a balance of total program. If you give them,
but you have a special account, you see, and if it's only a small portion goes into a special account, of course, instead of, hey, okay, we can give you 3 officers, we can give you 1, or we can give you 2, but that's in addition to. I'm saying, and same thing with the JPs. That's going to come up next, and I'm going to say the same thing. They're bringing in a lot of money, and they're way behind everybody else. So, I'm just not clear to where. I like to see those trackings as far as what's coming in from who, and and how much and where.
Cynthia is a recipient of some of the additional work that accounts, administrative work, not the work that we do outside of our facility. She has a stipend from GEO of $6,000 out of that fund. And then I have one other who probably draws close to maybe half of what she gets and she's the person that handles our HR, the hiring and the processing of everybody that comes in and out of the sheriff's office. So it's not a very large chunk. It's probably, Steve, do you know exactly how much the stipends are right offhand that we pay the two people in the administrative offices. And I hate to bog down the court with this. I merely threw that on the table so you'd understand that we're not asking for things here that we don't have a salary revenue coming in by what we do and what we perform for the county. But again,
Well, but in talking about what Commissioner Gonzalez is talking about, in the county, you always have certain departments that are revenue producing and a lot of departments that are revenue sucking, quite frankly, meaning sucking away from other things. And that's the problem is if you say, okay, to the JPs, you're going to get all the money you generate, then who's going to cover all the losses for inland parks? And who's going to cover all the losses for the many departments that lose us money? Pardon me?
Or island parks.
Or island parks, but we don't lose much. I mean, we produce revenue.
It's transfers.
Or there's other departments. I'm not picking on island. And there's 10 other departments that don't make money. The one that makes the most is the tax assessor collector with the amount of money that he brings in. Dale might be able to correct me on that. I mean, that's not necessarily because Kevin Kieschnick's doing a great job, although he is. It's because he has the opportunity to make revenue. Coastal Parks has the ability to make revenue. Inland Parks doesn't have the ability. So I wasn't trying to pick on him. I was just using that as an example. And Coastal Parks doesn't make money either, but it's getting closer. They've tried to be more self-sufficient. So I wasn't trying to pick on Inland Parks, Commissioner. I was just trying to make a point. No, I know. I really wasn't. But that was just the only one that came to mind. And there's others, and Steve can probably list off. And so I don't want to get into a situation where we go down a path of saying, well, because someone makes money, not you, but the JP one that's coming up would be, one of those things, because we have to have revenue producers to offset the ones that don't make money, because we have to provide services, and we have to provide services to some of the buildings that don't make, and there's many of those in my precinct. So again, Commissioner, I wasn't trying to pick a fight there. I apologize. I didn't mean to use that one and get you revved up, but that was just all I was trying to say. So
no, and there's another. We have one other position too.
Yeah, in answer to the question directly, there's 11,700 plus benefits is going to supplement, and then there's one sergeant position which is 38,000 plus benefits. So, the total is if we put benefits in there, it's closer to $60,000 of that $1 million.
But all of this money is trackable, and I think this is a good discussion because, we haven't all been here for forever, and there's some, it's good for all of us to review what some of those operations are, and Nueces County is still the the only one that can sign a contract, the only one that can approve the funds, and so it all comes here. I'm assuming it all comes here, and then from there it goes out.
Correct.
And like Steve was saying, we account for this in Department 1393, which is independent of everything, so we can give you a detailed idea from when it started to current to do that. And then we transfer funds from 1393 over to the general fund, which is part of our total revenue sources from our general fund to pay for the entire county operations.
In your budget, all our special revenues budget, and this in here is the 1393s, and on page 250 of your budget book, and it shows you how the money's coming in, where it's going out, where it's being spent. So it does have that detail in there. If it's not something that Dale and I are keeping to ourselves. It's part of the adopted budget.
What do you call that book you got?
What? It's the Aggie colored book.
And it's probably an appropriate time also for me to interject that, there's only one contract that the sheriff is allowed to negotiate and administer, only one, and that's that commissary account. And of the commissary account, probably for the last 6 years that we've had it, we have returned back into the jail operations, because it has to be spent directly on the benefit of the inmates, $300,000 or more in the operation of the jail. One of the things that I agreed to do with Dale, I buy all the cleaning supplies for that jail, which is not really a responsibility. That's something that the court is supposed to fund. But in order to offset some of the operational issues that we have, we spend a huge amount of dollars on cleaning supplies in the jail, which I take out of the commissary account. And the commissary account, trust me, is very well maintained. We have worked ourselves into a wonderful contract with them where I'm receiving 43% of every dollar spent on goodies in that jail. Stripes would love to have that kind of a deal on a return on their product. But we're doing well, and right now we've had some expenditures and we have drawn down, but I've managed, even though I'm spending $300,000 a year, I've managed to draw down that account from over $1 million in returning it back into the jail, and those are costs. When you look at these dollars here, we'd be in horrible shape if we didn't have that revenue that I currently have into that jail operation. We added, when I added the 122 cameras, which is directly related to saving the court a lot of liability, and I don't think the court ever gets to see what we've saved them in the liability issues, because the attorney then comes down, wants to see the tape, sees the tape, and no action ever results because what he thought he had or she thought she had, she didn't have. So we added the 122 high-definition cameras to the 92 cameras that were there. We replaced those 92 cameras, and that was an expense of $500,000 that we put into the camera system in the jail. That's not required by jail standards. And that's a tremendous benefit back to the court. So when we talk about funding issues, I think you can say we're certainly doing our part to try to keep the cost containment as much as we possibly can. So with the court's permission, I'll go ahead and move on, but I think Commissioner Ortiz mentioned that, it's good to know where money's coming in, where money's going out, and I thank Commissioner Gonzalez for asking the questions that he asked, because it's tough. The jail is $14 million, and you give me 20, and that leaves 6 for everything else. But so much of what goes on in the jail, we just don't have a lot of, and that's mostly salaries and overtime. But it's a big expense, but you know that. You guys have been managing this for a lot longer than I have, most of you. No.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Might not here, but I have to ask you, the 300,000 of the commissary funds that come in, then, I know, I keep hearing the word for inmate purposes, it's got to be for inmate related and everything.
Inmate benefit, yes, sir.
Benefit, so I guess when we buy water, like we had the water deal, that would justify that from that fund, not from,
Yes, sir.
not the front general account fund.
Right. And
But also, would an officer justify that he's working with the inmates, justify an officer from that account if we have to? Pay for an
no, we
officer?
can't supplement the budget. It's specifically, that's what they watch for, is that we're supplementing what the county's responsible for doing, and that
So for
they
service
don't do it
only.
like, we're going to cut you 20 positions, pay for it out of your inmate benefit fund. Then we would wind up with an issue if we tried to do that, because that's what the county's responsibility is to properly fund the jail.
Okay.
But we've managed to spend the money on the cleaning supplies because we could go out and buy a cheaper, watered-down product versus the product that we're currently buying, which is expensive. And I know, Mike, you remember when we had this with Joe McComb, and he said, well, if what I buy to clean my garage with, well, it's a little different because, number one, in the 10 years I've been there, we've not had any staph infections. That's astronomical, and Jail Commission will reiterate that to you, that we've had staph infections brought in, but we've not had people develop a staph infection since they've been there. Our record is better than the hospitals, and that speaks well of what we're doing. We don't want to change it, so let me spend a little bit more, and to the benefit of the inmates, it comes out of that fund. And Dale can tell you, those are some pretty good bills that come in his way, that he redirects them to me and says, this is what we agreed upon, and I'm a man of my word. We're doing it. Thank you. Okay, where did I quit? We were down to capital outlay, and we put an increase of $20,000. I'm managing as best I can, but my cars are just coming apart at the wheels. When we look at the mileage on some of those vehicles, it's really, it is what it is, but we're requesting on capital outlay 2 Chevrolet Impalas for patrol. And that's cash price for each of them is about, we're requesting 3. I'm sorry, let me look over 3. And that's a $90,000 capital outlay. I know after a while you're going to get numb to these increases in numbers. And we're also out of capital outlay looking for an interview video system to replace the one that's been there since I've been there, which is used almost every day. The woman, as you know, that yesterday that made the terroristic threat and caused us to shut down the courthouse for several hours, she was videotaped in that system, but our system is antiquated and it's got to be replaced, and there's a $20,000 tab on that. Somehow I'll find a way to do it if the court doesn't do it. I mean, we've got to have, that's just an essential part of our investigations. Any other questions on 3700? Looking at my clock, and I wanted to do this in 30 minutes, so.
Steve, I have a question, Sheriff, if
Yes,
you don't
sir.
mind real quick. With respect to capital outlay, as you well know, we have wired the jail for accepting the new IP phone system, but are we going to program money into the sheriff's budget for the phone system itself? Because I don't think we have that in the IT budget currently, or are we planning to put that in the
The phones itself,
Yes, sir.
I believe the phones, and I'll double check, I think the phones were budgeted last year into this budget here.
In the sheriff's budget, so we still have the money there?
We don't have money for the new software upgrade, but I think,
I thought the money from the phone was supposed to be come back in and reused for that. Did we do a contract with somebody?
not for the iPhones, not for
This
the
is for the
iPhone
new
system.
IP phone system.
Yeah.
So,
And this is
IP
what
phones.
we're
we
replacing.
put money in it for it last year or not?
Last year we budgeted $650,000 for the IP phones, I believe it.
Okay.
The Dale commercial.
Can we verify that, please? Because I want to make sure we've got that covered in the sheriff's or IT budget this year.
Yeah, let me go back on the capital outlay. The Chevrolet Impalas and the new video system is not an increase in anything. It's to maintain the existing system. It's the normal replacement that normally the court would go through in supplying cars.
And these capital outlay items are not budgeted through the sheriff's budget. They come out of our capital projects, Department 1900, but we request them to give us this type of input so we know what the total requests are out there.
Okay, if you want to flip over to 3720, here's the fat daddy of all of them. This is the operation of our jail. And I've earmarked the ones that we would like and need an increase in salaries. It's called salaries regular, but again, I'm looking at a reclassification of one employee's position from senior clerk 13. She's at $25,917 annually to senior clerk 2. It's about a difference of $2,517. 5 additional corrections officers, which I believe are already in the matrix. The 5 additional corrections officers will be staffing the dormitory at the McKenzie Annex when we open up the first section of that operation. Steve, do you know if when we set the $2 million aside, or the court set the $2 million aside for the expansion, I'm not sure. I don't think that really had salaries in there, did it?
No, it did not, and this was something that will be a new item in the budget for the coming year, and it will. These are annual amounts, and we'll have to prorate from the time that we anticipate the completion of the expansion. So I would bet that we're not doing more in 6 months, if that.
When it starts, it will be pretty quick because of the type of construction that we're going to do. But let me say this, that the employees are going to be offset with, I'm going to bring in through an agreement with the U.S. Marshals Service. And when we open up those bed spaces, and I believe the county judge wants to open them up the first 70 beds, and then as we begin to have capacity there, open up the second 70 beds. The U.S. Marshals Service will put another 25 inmates into this facility. Now, they want to do it now. We've not had the room, but that will bring us then. I already have 25 beds laid aside for the U.S. Marshals, and these are good paying customers. Steve can tell you about the money that they bring in. And another 25 would be back to what we were when they eventually took out all of the inmates out of our jail. And of course, taking them out and getting them back is two different things, but I've been assured with the way things are going, they need us. They need to have us holding inmates here for them because of the proximity of the courthouse and the risk involved in driving them from Rockport and from Falfurrias and from other places, even up in George West, bringing the federal inmates back here. So that's what I look for in that, and really that's going to be an offset cost on the additional COs as we set aside the money from the increase from the federal inmates. Moving on, 5125. Overtime is, now there's a way you play with overtime, and I understand that. One is that my unexpended salaries that we have from the vacancies, because we have a terrific turnover in the jail. If I knew how to stop it, I would. But it's just something that people think they want to do, and when they get in there and they're subjected to the daily abuses of what inmates do to them, and even the words that they say, and the throwing urine on them, and smearing themselves with feces, and smearing their cells with feces on a regular basis, and then say, now come get me. I think I'd find something else to do myself. I really do. So I can't say enough good about them. But our overtime, with all of the things that are going on, it just drains us down to the point that I'm sitting in Steve's office for starting about this time, by the way. I need to get a schedule to come in and sit down with you, Steve. But what happens is my budget, then I go over budget. Dale's office then becomes in contact with me and saying, we can't pay no more, you're out of money. I'm over here, I'm trying to get, and then finally we get some unused salary appropriations released back into the budget. If it's properly funded, I wouldn't have to take that. My budget would look like we're managing it properly, which we would be because we're properly funded, and then those unexpended overtime dollars could be used in other areas at the end of the year. So it's a numbers thing on that. So when you look at the $90,000 on overtime, basically that's what I'm talking about is having it put into the budget without having to say that I went over budget and the court had to give me money to run that jail. We've been over ever since I've been there. Rarely have we ever met within the budget, because it's just not funded that way, and I don't know whether the court's aware of it, but I'm assuming they are.
But and just a comment on that, in that line item you're always over, but in your total budget comes total budget, he stays within his budget.
Bottom line, we still come in on the black. So yeah, I'm very hold your applause till I finish with this, and then we'll.
Sheriff, is that 90,000? Has that been the same number you've been using year in, year out? Have you increased it each year?
Let me, Commissioner.
Steve probably can address that.
It's actually 90,000 doesn't come close to covering it. He has, the last several years, his overtime's been about $400,000 more than what we budgeted. But every dime of that comes out of the salary regulars and transferred down into pay for those overtime positions. Now, from a budgeting point of view, rather than if we increased his total bottom line by $400,000, that would be an impact on how you budget. We've always budgeted regular positions, 100%. Now, the only thing that I would recommend to the court, if you ended up budgeting his overtime to what he's been spending every year, then you're going to have to take away, not budget some permanent positions, because
so we're overfunding permanent positions and underfunding overtime.
That's right, and typically, and it doesn't say it has to be that way, but we've always budgeted permanent positions 100% because it takes in all your benefits and everything else together, so you don't find yourself in.
The only reason I asked the question is with the addition of the staff at the annex, whether or not.
No, that will be that definitely is something, when we moved there, which we did when we opened up the last 40 beds or whatever it was, we added staff for that. We have to keep with his ratio 1:48, and it works out to 5 people when you have all the shifts.
All the shifts,
shift
yes.
differential, so 5 people for 48 beds, I think, is what we've.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good example of what we were talking about a while ago. When we, our jail overcrowding issue we're going to help that by doing this project at the McKenzie Annex. But part of that was the sheriff being able to bring on these additional federal prisoners, and that helps offset the cost of what we're doing to help our overcrowding issue. And if we get to the point where we don't have enough beds, you can always decrease the number of federal inmates to compensate for that. So it all goes hand in hand.
And I think, with your indulgence, what I present to you today is not something that we just sit down at a table and crafted in a couple of hours. This is a lot of work goes into us coming here to be very open with you, so that, and we understand this is probably an ideal budget. This would be something that is up here, but you need to know as commissioners. I need to give you, why didn't you, somebody would say to me later in the year, why didn't you bring it to the court's attention? And that's what I want to do today. We didn't want to leave anything that the court isn't aware about when it goes into its final budget preparation and developing what it costs to run Nueces County, and more especially, the biggest stepchild that you have, which is the sheriff's office. And when the birds in the nest got their mouth open, mine's probably as bigger than any other mouth that's in that nest looking for that worm. So, but again.
Well, if you just get people to quit breaking the law, we wouldn't have to worry about this.
Yeah, I think we've got a plan there if we can just develop it. And there's lots of good things on the table. Another time. All right, let's go down to 5210, office expense. I can list you about 20 bullet points here on office expense, but we're asking for, things like trash can liners. Code encompasses more than just office supply. This particular line item, supplies used in every inmate housing unit in both facilities. That's our toilet paper and
Paper towels, hand sanitizer, soap comes out of this category. It's a little misleading because it says office expenses, which I think makes people believe pins, papers, paper clips.
right.
But it really, truly, a
Well,
lot of
again, my
the,
question, we should buy that supplies with the commissary money? I mean, it's toilet paper, it's supplies for the inmates?
Commissioner, yeah, I would think so, and certainly, but again, according to the regulations, are you supposed to fund toilet paper to operate for the jail?
Not if you have the money.
Excuse me?
Not if you have the money.
If I have the money? Well, it can't be used on the inmate benefit side of it if it's a normal county appropriation. Because you could actually say, you just reduce my budget by the amount that I have in the commissary.
What's the benefit? I mean, to me.
Well,
let me give you an example, and that's a great question. Putting in a television set, giving them a screen television, that benefits them.
Is more important than toilet paper?
No, I think the issue is to operate a jail, the
electricity.
court is responsible for providing what's needed to operate a jail, and you can't operate a jail without toilet paper and these other things. So it is a responsibility to fund that in the most part of it. Now, the things that the commissary fund has been used for, his example of cleaning supplies, the only reason that went to the commissary fund is because the sheriff, for good reason, wanted to keep that product rather than what we got in low bid. The court was doing low bid stuff and providing the supplies, but didn't have the same benefit to them. And so the sheriff, some time ago, says, I want to buy something that's out of that. But typically, the court is responsible for paying things that our normal operating things in there. TVs are not a normal, we don't have to provide a TV.
I understand it's our responsibility, and I have no question with that. But I'm just saying, if the monies have been brought in from the telephones or commissary or whatever it is, it goes back to inmates. I mean, we spend it on the inmates. I mean, why should we take it out of general account if that's what the money's for? It's for
Well,
inmates.
the telephone money coming in a sense, the same as the GEO money, that money's coming into the general fund as revenue. Now, Dale can't track that dollar going straight back to the sheriff, but again, it's part of the revenue that the court gets, the same as we get revenue from the federal inmates. That dollar for dollar, you can't say is at the sheriff's department, but it's part of the overall budget package, which is, as he says,
Yeah,
is a
some
big
of
part
it
of
is.
it.
I mean, I don't expect them to keep all the money either, but I know that some
We
of
don't.
them-
I told you, over 300,000, Judge, we're spending on things to help alleviate. Even back when we went through a large part of the renovation, we paid for the lock, changing out all the jail locks. They had to be retrofitted.
Yeah, I remember
The
that.
court bought new ones, but we contributed a huge percent of dollars that we could to tie it back to, this is above and beyond what normally the court would do, and
So
we
what's their
supplied
balance?
money.
What's their balance in that account, Sheriff?
Well, we just wrote some checks, but I'm just under $1 million. John's that about right? With the last expenditure that we had, we just bought brand new. Now, here's the thing that the court's about, but I just changed from the brown uniform to an orange uniform. They're not in it, but we put the orange, which is a traditional, very high recognition when you have an inmate in that kind of colored shirt right there, Commissioner Chesney. But a nice orange shirt. And nothing creates a better perception of what our inmates look like when they see them in the orange outfits, Nueces County Jail on the back. Right now, we've got a dingy, dirty-looking brown outfit, which I don't know why they ever went to it, but they did. Somebody said it was to cover up, when they went to federal court to cover up, when the federal judge over there said, these guys look dirty. Well, they gave them a dirty-looking uniform and blame it on the uniform, but we just spent, John, how much did we spend on the uniforms? $40,000 on the uniforms. I didn't come to the court because that's a direct benefit to those inmates.
Did you get the little longhorn symbol?
Yeah. Did you catch that, Commissioner? That's
We might have paid for those if they'd gone purple, but
and let me say this: we just, some of the other things that we did. What was the other large expenditure? $72,000 on tasers for the jail. Didn't come to the court and say I need $72,000 because the tasers we have went out of warranty. You couldn't buy the parts to fix them, and there's nothing that has also reduced the liability to the county because we're able to subdue inmates without using a lethal force or a more harmful force.
It's one of the inmate benefits that we can do that. One of the
Directly, they don't get hurt. Yeah, Commissioner, that's it. You bet. They don't get hurt, and we don't. And what?
yeah, heck of an inmate. Heck of a benefit.
We all are welcome to see that it's not life-threatening. Who wants to be first, Will? And the other thing is, Commissioner, more than anything else, Commissioner Gonzalez, it benefits our employee because our employees don't get hurt because they're able to subdue. But that's a benefit to the inmate too. So anyway, thank you for your.
Thank you.
And there's things that you don't even consider, but a roll of toilet paper is also a pillow. Now, I don't know but it's traditionally a jail pillow, and we lose. Even though you try to keep it on the rack, you try to keep it in the toilet. The big guy gets in there and takes it. Next thing you know, he's taking a nap, and you don't go up and take from the big guy his toilet paper. So, but yet you got to provide toilet paper. Now, that's surely, $24,000, but I'm just trying to give you some ideas of what goes on. Let's, if we can, over to 220, same category, but we're on 5220. Category kitchen expenses, 80,000. As our inmate population goes up, our kitchen expenses are going up during the hurricane season. It was necessary, it's going to be necessary for us to have and supply items for that jail that normally we wouldn't have. Unforeseen emergencies such as the recent water boil. I believe we carried, did you bill us for the water, Dale? Do you know how that was paid, or did it get paid out of?
The purchasing department paid for it.
Anyway, it was a question that we were prepared to pay for it. So think about that category compared with what we're currently spending and the growth. 5240, maintenance, repair, equipment of vehicles. Again, we have an aging fleet, and with an aging fleet, the repair costs are going up. We've asked for an increase in that category. Coming down the wire, maintenance and repair, building and grounds, there's that same category again, but 9,000 increase because and it's based on actual usage, what we spent previously, and where we've run short and had to transfer. But when we say detergents, bleach, neutralizers, softeners for the jail came out of this budget. Cynthia, you want to explain that?
These are supplies for laundry and that type of thing. They come out of this category.
Where we wash the uniforms and maintain them. Okay, 5330, special personal services. New ADA law requires us to provide interpreters for the deaf, mutes that are in our jail. It's hard to predict a need there, but $610 was billed for just 1 month's service recently. So we've asked for a slight increase in that budget category. 5410. That's our biggest category. Cynthia?
Okay, this category here, it's called other services and charges, but just so you know, this is an all-encompassing budget code where we get all the inmate supplies come out of here, such as blankets, towels, shower curtains, pillowcases, everything from razors, their band IDs, mattresses, mattress covers. All of that comes out of this category. It's also lumped together with all the employee uniforms that have to come out of this category. And then the transportation, when we transport people, the hotel and meals, when we're doing in-house transportation, all of that is grouped together in this one category. And it doesn't show that it's divided, but just so y'all get an idea of everything that comes out of this category. And what we're finding ourselves is that we're running out of money in this budget and having to wait for a budget change order, which we do frequently, to add money to this category because we can't order, shower shoes for the inmates, but waiting for the budget change order, it's holding up ordering uniforms for a new employee because they're all together in this category here. And if you look at historically at our actual, what was spent in this category, in 13-14, it was almost 180,000. The actual in 14-15 was 170. We did get an increase last year to 140, but we're still short. And as of right now, we're having to do budget change orders still to get money into this category right now.
With 4 months to go.
With 4 months to go.
But we'll get through it. Other expenses, $3,500. Projected costs not kept up with actual cost. That doesn't really tell anybody much. Print shop expenses necessary for legally conducting jail business.
And just, we do all the printing for the courts, the yellow cards, those type of things, they come out of this budget here.
I'm working on it. That's because that ought to be a cost that's shared by the court, not me, for a yellow card that they send to me with reference to what their order was in reference to an inmate. All right, and last, as we close out this one, is the capital outlay. A 1-ton vehicle. Let's see, how many we're looking for there, John? Two? Okay. One of them has 172,000 plus miles. Well, we've got the one, how many did you say? Yes, two. We got 172,000 miles on one, and we've got 164,000 miles on the other. Which one?
These are the 1 ton.
Oh, the 1 ton. I'm reading off the wrong one. My apologies. The capital outlay on the 1 ton. The 1 ton has 208,448 miles. But against capital outlay, as Steve alluded to, it's not budgeted for consideration when you figure your capital outlay dollars. And we're looking at 3 Chevrolet Impalas for the jail, and the 3 replacements there on that is.
I guess there is some confusion on that. If you look at your capital outlay sheet where it shows the 1 ton, you have 1 ton, you say you're requesting 2 of those at 88,000, and you're requesting 4 Malibus for 52,000. Is that right, Cynthia?
It's 3, sir.
It's supposed to be 3, okay.
Not 4.
Okay, I'll make that change. So the total vehicles, if you take the 1 tons, you're looking for 5 vehicles.
Yes.
Okay.
And these are all for replacement?
Replacement, not additional.
So there's still 3 at 52,000? There's still 3 at 52,000?
It should be 3 at probably 39,000.
Okay, and let's go to 3710, which has got 3 items to discuss in 3710. That's the one that often doesn't draw much attention. It's our identification bureau. This is the one where we have wrong people in jail. This is the people that straighten it out and make sure that the right people are where they should be. And we have asked for a new position. 5123, a new position. I have a captain who this court was gracious enough to help me fund this captain's position. But the captain position is a 5th captain, jail captain, and running the ID section. And when he's out, when he's gone, or when we divert him out to the annex or wherever I divert him to because of a sick or something else, sure would be nice to have a sergeant in that position. And I believe that dollar request is $40,650. Is that about right? If we come down, we're looking at overtime in his department of a $10,000 increase. One position from the identification budget was assigned to $3,700, which is warrants, and therefore leaving the identification section short 1 position for normal daily operations.
I guess my comment on that one, if in fact you made that transfer, then we need to formally do that with the court. I mean, I don't think there's ever been an NCF change moving the position from 3710 to 3700.
That was done before he was here. That position's been in that place.
Okay. So this isn't something, it's not.
But yet, when you look at yours, you're going to see that position as a jail position when in fact it was transferred before I got here to over to the civil side, which actually misleading. And last is office expense there, which is the same thing, but we're not talking, well, we're talking toilet paper, aren't we?
Actually, a lot of printer cartridges there. They do a lot of the...
Printer cartridges mainly. The printer, if you've seen those buckets of
Toilet paper's everywhere.
I'll tell you, that's it. And overall, our increase, the bottom line for the jail, I think maybe you have it already. I don't know whether you have it totaled. I doubt it. Let's see. We're going from 13.9 to 14.4. That's just on the jail, 13.9, 14.4 with what I've talked up here. And with the sheriff's budget, we're going from 6, we're requesting 6.1 from 5.8. What did Chief have?
The reclassification of
3710, a reclassification. John, you ought to stand up here. You don't have to get up and get down so much. The ID Bureau reclassification of, well, where did I miss that bullet point? Oh, reclassification of one ID clerk's position from senior clerk 2. This position would entail additional duties that to assist with the monthly crime uniform report, court-ordered expunctions, and act as an expert witness in regard to fingerprint testimony and district courts. It's a difference of $2,392 a year to reclassify this clerk. What's the name of the clerk?
Lucky.
That's Lucky, and she's been here been here a long time. She's been here, gone through a number of sheriffs. Her last name is Lucky. It's not that she's lucky. Miss Lucky's been down there a long time. Broke in lots of different ID people as she comes into that. I know I've laid a plate full on you, and I realize that I've laid a plate full on you, and I realize also that everything that we brought to you today is not something that's going to happen, but at least you have an understanding of the expense that goes into operating the jail. And Commissioner Gonzalez, we will use every dollar we can to offset the budget for the county out of inmate benefit when and where we can. When I took over, that there was only $60,000 in that account, and very little had been spent out of it, and it was a very poor rate of return that we were getting. I immediately got a new contract with Keefe Commissary, and Keefe Commissary had increments to where I could increase myself up to the current draw that we have of 43%. And because of that, we're able to devote those dollars back into that jail, almost on an average $300,000 a year, and still have in that account, spending it like I have been, right at $1 million. And if it hadn't been for the two recent expenses, we probably would have had but $1.2 million that I could have reported to you here. And I don't know what, as a county, we do without it. I don't know what I'd do without it as a sheriff. And the other is my federal asset forfeiture account, which, as you know, we purchased the command response vehicle out of that funding and other things which have been a huge benefit to Nueces County. And again, I think one of the questions on the court was, how often did you use the other bus that they had out there, which was an embarrassment? And I said, well, I only think they used it one time. Was that a good investment? Yes, it is. It's a good investment if we never use it, because Nueces County is doing well if we don't have to deploy that thing on an actual event. And yesterday, by the way, Commissioners, we had a great, the evacuation, the employees, and moving out and moving back, very disruptive. But I think it was something certainly, I was pleased to see the way it happened, and I think the media was fair to us on the reporting of it. The dog did alert on some tape. We don't know yet what was in that fruitcake, but I understand it was saturated with Hennessy whiskey, and the whiskey mixing with the different fruit created something in there that dog, what they call it, the dog handler refers to it as strong alert. And a strong alert for this dog, the dog urinates. All right, so we might be getting a bill for some cleanup up there in 13th Court of Appeals for a dog stain, but...
Well, that's better than what could have happened, though.
Well, that we responded, yes, and having the medical tape on an old aluminum, this looked like a cake pan, but dead flowers, and the person is probably in dire need of some mental help. The family said bipolar and some other things. So, but the bottom line was a good day. Well, Commissioners, if you don't have any further questions, I know I've already used, well, I'm pretty close, aren't I? Used my time. I thank you again for your sitting here and listening to me, because I think this is very important to our process. So thank you again.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Steve, is this at some point, are we going to talk about the Department of Labor's...
Say again?
The Department of Labor's new rule on exempt employees? Is it going to affect our budget?
Oh, yeah, we will, when we get in, not during the workshop this year, but we'll get to definitely talk about it with our workshops. And come back and see. We're talking about this one. If they come back at 1 o'clock, it's not as big as the last year.
Not really, no.
Because we don't have a lot of people right there that.
Okay.
Guess you're ready, Dan?
So we will get our cards.
She's okay. Fix that.
Thank you.
Good morning. 35 minutes.
Yes, sir. Thank you all so much for letting me be a little bit late this morning. It's one of those mornings where I want to start out with 3510, which is our district clerk jury administration department that was created last year in the budget, for this year's budget. And I want to let you all know that we have firmly established the jury administration department in the district clerk's office by way of statute and also the revised 2016 jury plan. So that kind of let me move forward with what I needed to do, which was to hire a second employee to assist the jury administrator. And I want to brag on my jury administrator. She's been with me as court administrator for over 15 years, and when I became district clerk, she stepped up and said, I would like to take it off your hands and see what I can do. And I think she's been very instrumental in where we are right now. She has a good rapport with the judges and good rapport with the IT department, and she and Daryl work really, really well together. So I'm very pleased with that. Also in the process of hiring a third employee from the sheriff's department. We'll have interviews next week and hopefully have someone on board quickly to start training. If you'll look at the administration of justice, the general fund appropriations, I've made an increase under 5,300 professional services. Right now, that just has the $3,500 for our source list update, which is putting our new information, we used to call it the jury wheel, but now we call it the source list update because we're all electronic and mechanical. That charge, but now I'm adding an $8,800 charge to that as well, and that is for the subscription that we will need for text messaging for the peripheral that is associated with the online and paneling aspect of the jury management system. So we will need to have that on a yearly basis. And I think I attached an email to that from Ms. Hoganson, who bills us from Courthouse Technology. All I want to say about continuing with the jury administration is to get it as up to date as Tarrant County is, and try to encourage more and more people to go online so we can have less problems on Monday or less traffic on Monday. So that's 3510. Now, yes, sir.
If I understand, yesterday there were 150 people notified, jurors notified through the text-mex, telling them not to come back or come at 1 o'clock. So, and that's how many people are registered, so as you get more people on there, it's the use of that.
Right, and I know that Bert and Daryl are working very hard on when jurors come in on Mondays and Tuesdays now, the phone information that we get on the back of their cards, because that's where we get their phones. They have to physically put that phone number on the back of the card. They're taking those cards now and entering all that information, so we have their mobile phones. So that's good. That was a good tryout yesterday for the text messaging, so that was very good. As far as accomplishments for 3530, I believe that we've resolved the issues with e-filing that were so prevalent when I took office. I do need to let you know that e-filing did go down briefly, and Odyssey with it this morning, but I believe we are back on schedule with that, and we'll be getting any backlog taken care of quickly. We have over the past 6 months of this year, we've laid enough software foundation on Criminal Odyssey conversion to start moving data from the mainframe to Odyssey to see how it came over. We've had some issues with that, but fortunately our go-live date has been moved to October, which gives us some breathing room and some more time to make sure the system will be functioning as it should when it goes live. And I'll have my Chief Deputy Lillian Gutierrez talk a little bit more about that. Also, one accomplishment that I was so thankful to finish up last week was the 2016 County and District Clerk Association of Texas Convention. The previous administrations of the county clerk and the district clerk had bid for that convention for this year, and we were not aware that we were going to be facing that when Kara and I took office. But along with two very awesome district clerks from Jim Wells County and Hidalgo County, we pulled it off last week. We had over 300 clerks from around Texas, plus their families, visit us, and it was very successful. So I was excited about that. It was an accomplishment. Yes, sir.
Steve, at some point, I don't know about everybody else, but none of mine turned out where I can read it, so.
I think Dale's worked on that already.
I apologize for that.
Getting it scanned a little darker. We noticed that when we made the printouts, and it was real light when we put it in, so we'll make sure it's more readable later.
Thank you.
Okay. I apologize for that, but I apologize that I tried to do it electronically through the computer. I even had Lance come and help me, and there were just some things that
I
glitches
could
in
read
that.
it fine. They just have older eyes, and so
Well,
it
I'll
was all good.
I'll just go over it. No, I'll just go over it. It was kind of a rush job anyway, and I apologize for that too.
Right.
Um,
It's fine. I'll catch up. Just
Okay.
move forward. I'll get them to reprint it.
Okay.
I'll
The plans that I have for the district clerk is, again, to continue moving forward with the jury online and our criminal odyssey to go live. With our criminal odyssey, we know that down the line, our Supreme Court of Texas is going to ask for electronic e-filing for criminal, and so we want to be prepared and go forward with that before it's mandated. My second priority is to fill the vacancies that we still have existing in the district clerk's office. We have had some issues just in the past couple of months with retirements happening as a surprise for us. We've had maternity leave, we had to terminate an employee, and we had some employees take jobs that paid a little bit more than what we could. But we have filled 4 vacancies, and I just want to comment that I would strongly suggest that our Human Resources Department look at revising some of the job descriptions. I know especially in my department, I would like to see that. I've come to see that clerks are just not people that are filing papers in filing cabinets anymore, or stamping, or opening the having to know the fax machine or a typewriter or whatever. In this day and age when we're going paperless, we need employees that are able to navigate around the internet. All of our programs seem to be web-based and on the internet. We also need employees that have a legal background. We are e-filing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents. Brent, you know, you're a lawyer, you know what that entails. I had no clue, unfortunately, of all the civil pleadings, all the family pleadings, all the probate pleadings, and now all the criminal pleadings that we are involved with. And we have got to have people that have these capabilities. If we take somebody that does not have pretty good computer skills or no knowledge of court documents, it'll take us 6 months to a year just to get them up to where we need them to really be going. So we are looking for that type of, yes, sir.
How many vacancies do you have, you said?
I think, Steve, what did you say, 14? And now we're down to 4. And we are, yeah. And so we know what we are facing and what we need. So we're working on that.
So you got
But-
4 left.
We have been able to hire 2. We lost some people in our e-filing because they are experienced in the court. We had to take 2 and put them up as court clerks in 2 courts because one court, my clerk retired and the other one went on maternity leave. So we just had to grab them and stick them up there. So right now I'm working with Human Resources to open those positions and get them filled as quickly as possible.
Yeah, thanks.
We're also looking at some of those vacancies that we have. We're hoping to possibly reclassify them. We have a legislative mandate to now start reporting all court appointments, no matter what it is, if it's for what are they? Not just lawyer, not just for indigents, but we have lots and lots of. I'll let Lillian talk about that.
There's some new statutes and rules in Chapter 36 of the Texas Government Code that came out, and basically what it says is that for each individual court, we have to report every single appointment. And so far, there are 30 appointments. They're ranging from ad litem to CPA to mediator to guardian to referee to trustee, and basically what the state wants is the dollar amount of how much they were paid and the source of fees, whether it was the applicant that's paying, the county, the defendant, the estate, trustees, so we've got to report everything. The only change is that if the amount is over $1,000, we will have to also report the hours that person worked, the billable hours that person worked. And if you guys are interested, I will get you all a copy. Also, I want to talk to you all about Criminal Odyssey. I want to tell you that Elaine and Charlotte with Commissioner Pusley has been involved also, and the IT department has done an awesome job. The Criminal Odyssey is going great. We've got dedicated people in our staff that are going over there and testing and checking to make sure that everything has been transferred over. The only issue that we had is that juvenile, Judge Chesney, of course you're aware, Deborah is over there, so we're going to have 2 dedicated employees that are going to have to manually input and scan all of the juvenile files. Also, another thing that I want to bring to light is a public portal. I know that there were several district judges and county judges that wanted to talk about when are we going to have access, when is the public and the attorneys going to have access. We've talked to the CSI software people, and they've told us that the redaction software would be in the amount of approximately $182,000, and that does not include the $20,000 support upkeep from Tyler Technologies.
I think, I guess we need the difference. You have listed at 120,000 here, and I'd heard from IT that it was like 80 to 100,000 plus the 20,000. So I think the 180,000 that you said, I don't think that's correct. Huh?
I think that includes the main.
We talked to the CSI individual yesterday, and that's what the information they gave us over the phone, Commissioner. We're having a meeting with them in a couple of weeks, so if you definitely need an amount, we'll get that amount to you.
They were bought out by Tyler, right?
Yes, sir. They were bought out by Tyler.
Just also bought Big Mountain, the executive.
Wow.
Which is not bad. I mean, we get to deal with one company for, pretty much our whole suite of applications, so that sometimes is an advantage.
Yes. I will tell you that I was honored to represent Nueces County last week. I'm on the staff for the 6th year of the Texas Center for the Judiciary. Got together with the Chief Justice and talked about all different type of situations, besides teaching the first-year court managers in the state of Texas. And the topic that came up over and over and over was criminal e-filing. And I will tell you that meeting with Ed Wells from Harris County and Bob Wessels, and meeting with David Slayton, the OCA director, e-filing for criminal is coming. They're working on the procedures, and what they're telling me is to expect some kind of timeline, hopefully by the beginning of the year. So hopefully as soon as I get that, I'll let Mr. Biddle know if he doesn't already know about that. But working with them, working with the OCA and with the judiciary gives me a better insight of what's going on to make sure that our department is running smoothly. I want you to know that we have some very good employees at the district clerk's office that are very dedicated employees. And we've been working very, very hard in trying to maintain and make sure that everything goes up there to the courts, and that our office works smoothly and that everything runs smoothly with them. So I'm hoping that Criminal Odyssey will start soon.
Are we currently doing e-filing of any kind?
We are doing civil and family e-filing because of the mandate by the Supreme Court. We are not mandated to do criminal e-filing yet. However, there's one county, maybe two counties, who are basically testing for the e-filing. And I believe that's Montgomery and Hidalgo County. So the testing has been going very well. The reason that, one of the reasons that was told to us that criminal e-filing has not been mandated is because you still have rural counties that are not e-filing in civil and family yet. So
Even though the Supreme Court mandated it 2 years ago.
even though the Supreme Court, because they have no IT, basically they're working from a Word product computer, and there's not a lot of funding for that. So we were told that the state is trying to fund them to catch them up, so we could have all the rural counties and everyone in the state of Texas e-filing by the end of the year.
We knew that e-filing for criminal was coming, so we've sort of been planning for that. And with the new Odyssey system coming online for criminal in October, that'll help better prepare us to where we can, get a jump on it, and we won't be behind the curve on it.
Imagine the programming for that is going to be pretty complicated to...
They basically show us an example of how criminal e-filing is going to be, and it's basically going to run the same way as the civil and family e-filing. However, because you have defense attorneys that are going to be court-appointed, that's the only challenge as to the filing fees and making sure that the affidavit of indigency is there for all defendants. And that's maybe a small glitch on filing fees, and making sure that all the filing fees are there.
In court, just to kind of back up on the redaction issue here, the number of the judges and attorneys who operate in this county want to be able to access the Odyssey information. Judges want to be able to access it outside the courthouse, and lawyers working the cases want to be able to access it, and we can provide that portal for them. But the law requires that the data that's stored in those files has to be redacted based on who's looking at it. And it's a very complicated process, and Tyler has bought a company that specializes in that, and they're working that into the Tyler Technologies Odyssey software to where we'll be able to redact those documents and then make them available through an open portal to the outside world.
And that's what this meeting in about 2 weeks, Commissioner, is going to be. I'm going to take them filings of everything that I feel needs to be redacted and what the law provides that needs to be redacted. So that's what that's going to be all about.
Yep. So, anyway.
And then we found out that there may be some data that the software doesn't recognize, so it throws it into a little queue, and we have to have a human that still sits there and
It's like
figures that out. So-
OCR is not perfect, and neither will redaction.
No.
Right.
It's always going to take a human intervention to go in and make sure that what you've redacted is correct and what you haven't redacted gets that way. But we are responsible. It's a federal law. We can't release information
No.
like social security numbers and
No.
driver's license and
Bank numbers.
bank numbers and, all the things that are in those case files,
Names.
if they got out in the public, would be a very dangerous thing.
Okay. That's it? Okay. Also, I wanted to let the court know that we were not prepared to know that we might need some more employees. So in a way, I'm kind of glad we have those openings. So we will try everything we can to fill those openings with the need for someone to watch the redaction software and do the appointment report that the OCA is demanding. That has to be turned in monthly, and the importance of that is not just to give statistics, but it's also going to affect our grant monies. If we don't turn this information in and it's not accurate, then we could lose some grants that we use now to pay these attorneys for indigent representation. So that's very important to us. Also, I've been working on the bail bond board. I'm assigned to that, and we found out that some bonding companies continue to put up land and whatever they can to be able to pay these bonds, but they have no knowledge of whether or not the cases have been dismissed or what the status is on these criminal cases. So I got together with Kent Brown, and it's been determined that my office needs to have a way where we can check on those cases for our bond companies. And so I'm going to be trying to set someone up in my office to be able to do that. Kent he took one of the bonding companies, and he took the first three alphabetical letters, and we came up with over 500 cases for one bail, and that was just the first three letters of the alphabet. And going through all of that to determine if the bonds are still good or not is going to take a dedicated person. So we're working on that. I think my next project that I'm very, very interested in, and I don't think I'm not sure if any district clerk before me has really gone into this project, but we have got to do something with the archives, with the district clerk's archives. And this is information dating from 1836 to 1950. Our minute books, our record books, whatever information that we have from the beginnings of the state of Texas going through the Confederate War, becoming a state, Texas becoming a state, is sitting over in that Rainbow Bakery warehouse. And our illustrious person that's taking care of that has wrapped these books in duct tape, string, and just added to the degradation of those records. So I have been working with an amazing company called CoFile, and they have done some studies and given me some information that I would like to present to Commissioners Court at a upcoming meeting. I have also been looking at a plan that needs to go into effect to be able to collect one of the archive fees, and I'm going to be asking to see the revenue that we've been collecting for our fees, because I'm the only district clerk in the state of Texas that also that handles all the courts and probate. The rest of the clerks, the county clerk is under statute, is the one that's supposed to be taking care of county courts and probate, but that was changed several years ago. So I'll be looking at those fees as well, what the county clerk would normally assess for their records management and archive fee. I'll be looking at that too and have a plan for you soon so we can start taking care of those records. Lil and I were fortunate to go up to the facilities of CoFile and take a look at how they preserve the archives and records that are damaged, and it's an amazing facility. First of all, they have to take off all the tape very, very carefully. Tape is acidic, the paper is acidic, the ink is acidic, so everything is just degrading. And then they clean it up and they scan it in so we can get as good a picture as possible. But after it's all cleaned up, then they put it in really nice binders. And one of the projects they were working on were all the documents and all the archives from Galveston that had gone through the hurricane. They were putting all of that back together. One lady was putting together the original plat of the Alamo, of the land that the Alamo sits on. It had come to them in pieces, and she was putting it together like a crossword puzzle so that they could get it back to Bear and put it up in the courthouse. So it's just been a very interesting thing for me to watch how this is done.
Contracted with them yet to do
No,
any
sir.
work? Okay.
No, sir. Not at all.
Yeah, Court, this is an issue that exists not only for Ann, but for every department in this county. Our records situation in Nueces County is at critical mass. We're out of room in that building. We have no plan for scanning of data. We just have, Steve, we're going to have to relook at that from top to bottom this year. And what I hope is that we don't end up with a situation where we've got every department in this courthouse using a different system to scan their data to store it, because at some point in the future, that'll come back to haunt us. That'll be as bad as that building we have now. And it's not a reflection on the building, it's just that we've filled it to capacity. There's nowhere left to store room. Now they won't let you send any boxes over there
Right.
unless you eliminate some boxes.
Right.
So,
Which I have no problem with,
Yeah.
as long as they've met the date to be shredded.
but we're working with some of the departments to try to, like the 13th Court of Appeals is a perfect example. They've been storing stuff there for umpteen years, and they never go back into those files when they store them. So we're trying to work with them to see what can be destroyed and taken care of and to make room for additional stuff. But we've got to come up with a long-range plan. Because if we don't, I mean, we're out of room over there, but if we went and built our own building, we'd never be able to build a building big enough to, keep up with the rate at which we're creating documents. So,
And we have to, by statute, we have to preserve those archives. And it's from 1800s to 1950, and then everything after that, hopefully is digitized and scanned and whatever, and then we can get rid of them. But CoFile is an amazing company, and this is what they do, is records management and preservation. So I'm going to have representatives with me, and we'll have some pictures that we can show you of what's going on with our archives right now. So anyway, that is our presentation. One thing that I know that Lil and I are striving to do is to bring the district clerk's office up to as good an office as possible, one that we can be proud of, but we have got to move it along technology-wise as well. And so I appreciate your time and listening to what our desires are, and please consider what we've talked about. Thank you all very much.
Okay, Mr. Mark Skirka, our district attorney is here. He's in the house. Elvis is in the house.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here today. Do y'all have copies of our budget?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Essentially, we have some standardized requests to go up in some of the costs that we've incurred. I want to start out with our regular general fund appropriation under 3520. Once again, I'm before you asking for raises in our salaries for our prosecutors and our staff. I made this and have made this a request, I think, almost every year. We talked last year, and I think I got a commitment from the commissioners at least to look at that carefully to see if we can raise the salaries. Last year I asked for a 3-step raise and I'm asking for the remainder 2 class step-ups for that, for the lawyers and the staff. We still have a problem with attorneys leaving for more pay somewhere else. In fact, I just lost one last week who'd been here 2 years, and she went to Waco and got a $16,000 raise that I couldn't even get close to matching. She went over there as a felony prosecutor, and 2 years is kind of a lot of experience for our office right now. So I'm again asking for that. The other main thing I'm asking for is another attorney for our truancy situation. For those who may not be aware of that, truancy laws have changed, and now it puts a much higher burden on the district attorney's office by law to do things. For example, it's really switched from a criminal prosecution to a civil prosecution. But what it's done is put more duties on the DA's office. Our prosecutors used to go in there, and what would happen is it used to be the school districts would go in there and file the cases, and we would just prosecute them when they came up to trial. Well, now by law, because they don't want to have those criminal cases filed, by law the DA's office has to review every truancy application made by every school district, and these are hundreds and hundreds of cases. We have to review every case to see if it justifies them filing it. Once it is justified in filing it, we have to draft the petition. Again, that's by statute. We have to be the ones to draft the petition, which we never had to do before either. And then if it goes forward, we have to be the one that actually goes in and forwards the case or prosecutes the case. These duties have been incumbent upon us since September 1st, I think, of last year. And what's happening is just, or it might have been January 1st of this year, I can't remember. But because of that, it's keeping our JP attorneys busier than anything. They can't go do the regular JP cases because they have to spend all this time reviewing these cases, and it's very time-consuming. I've talked to Commissioner Gonzalez about this, and all the JPs know this, and I'm sure they would support this too, because we just don't have a body can do both things. And our other lawyers are already busy with that. So I am asking for one position there, because that's a major change in the law that we've always never had to do before. Now we have to do it, and it's just very, very time intensive. The other things I've asked for in the budget are just basically increases in office expenses and supplies, postage, gasoline, overtime, temporary services, and travel. Those are all because of several things. For example, travel, our budget is really geared to what it used to be before we had added new staff. So we're always running out of money in travel and always having to switch money around at the end of the year. Our temporary and overtime positions, with the onset of Odyssey, I'm having to pull people off their regular jobs to go to the Odyssey training, which takes several hours a day. And so things aren't getting done, like judgments that need to be filed in court, jury charges that have to be coming in, and we have to get those done. So we're having to pay people overtime for that. In our temporary positions, we've had people leaving on family leave, maternity leave, things like that, and so we have to bring the secretaries and investigators in. I've had an investigator off on for operation or surgery for it's going to be about 6 weeks, and I'm going to have to pay a replacement for that. So I'm asking for increases on those. They're just increases because of the costs have gone up on that. But that's generally speaking all I'm asking for. The main thing is the salaries and the truancy person that we can do that. The rest are just basically the cost of expenses going up with office supplies, gasoline, things like that. That's really all I have. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any. Short and simple, huh?
What we like. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. If y'all have any other questions, feel free to call on me.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I was going to say, may I be excused, Your Honor?
I think that's all we have for today, and tomorrow we'll be back at 8:30. And basically, we have tomorrow the risk manager, tax office, constable 3 and 5, and JP representative. So I think we're done for today.
Very good.